So what is up guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video we will learn how to create a stopwatch timer application with React Native. Alright guys, so without wasting the time, let's jump right into the video. So as you can see over here, before starting the video I will be explaining you the packages that I have used for creating this stopwatch timer application. And guys, you will be shocked, for creating this stopwatch timer application we are only going to be using the React Native picker package, and other all packages, of course guys, we will be using it to create a stopwatch timer application, but it will be imported from React Native directly. Alright, so the link for this package will be provided in the description below. You need to just copy this install command in and paste it inside your terminal root directory of your project. Alright, so now let me open my code editor. Alright guys, so now I'll be explaining you my structure, how we are going to go through the code and how we will be working it from scratch, so it will be really easy for you all guys to understand what we're going to do step by step. So if till now you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and press the notification bell. Alright, so we are not going to be creating any extra files or any extra directories. To keep it simple and easy for you all guys to understand, we are only going to create one single file that will be created already, that is known as app.js file. And for saving our time, I have already created my stylings that I will be using for building this application. The source code will be provided in the description below for GitHub repository. So just ignore this CSS file and just ignore this variable. This is just for making our app responsive in all devices for iOS and Android. And coming over here, I'm importing a component from React, and from React Native I'm importing now style sheet, view, text and dimensions to make our app responsive, and in which I'm displaying a simple text that is showing watch timer application. Now let's start building our watch timer application. As you have seen, we are just having a simple code that is just giving us an output of this text that is called watch timer application. Now we'll start writing all the functions that we need for making this watch timer application work. So let's come over here before our render, and now let's create all the variables that we need and all the functions and all the components that we need, so it will be really easy for you all guys to understand the code, how it's working actually. What happens if I just go with the front end first and then I will just write the functionalities? You will be confused in code and it will be really confusing to find where is the function, which line of code I have completed or I haven't completed. So first we will start by creating the functions that we will be using later. Once our front end is ready, then we will be working with our front end. Okay, so now before our render statement, the first variable that we're going to create is going to be, not before our render statement, sorry, come before your component that you have created, a default function. Over here the first variable that we're going to call is going to be format number, that equals to is going to take some value that we're going to be keeping it as empty for now. I'll just assign an empty string for now. Alright, then we'll create a second function that is going to be for get remaining. Don't worry what is this function called get remaining, why we are creating this format number functions. We will be coming to this step later once our UI is ready. So this is going to be a function, and we have created two functions. Now the third, we're going to create a function that is going to be named as create array. Fourth, we are going to be having two variables. One is going to be available minutes. Just I'm going to keep it as an empty string for now. Second, I'm going to be having the available seconds, keeping it as an empty string for now. Later on we will be adding the functionality to this variable to make our watch timer application work. After that we are going to be coming to our import statements, and now we are going to be importing all of the packages that we actually need to build our React Native watch timer application. So coming over here, I will be importing a status bar, And after that I will be importing a touchable opacity button. After that I would like to import platform. And that's it, guys. These are only the import statements, and this is the one package that I will be importing, that is going to be a picker package that we have installed. That's it. These are only the import packages that we are going to be using for building our stopwatch timer application. Alright. So now, let's come inside our component, and inside our component we are going to be creating some more functions and some more component will unmount components. So now over here the first thing we're going to create is going to be a state, and I'm going to keep it as an empty object. Second, we're going to create a component did update function, which is going to take some props in it later onwards once we are done with our front end. Then we're going to create third, that is going to be component will unmount. Perfect, we have created our two functions. After that we're going to create two more functions. One is going to be for starting our watch timer application, and one is going to be for our stopping our watch timer application. Perfect. Let me zoom in a code a bit so it will be really easy for you all guys to understand, and I'm going to be closing the sidebar so it will be really easy for you all guys to see the whole line of code in one single scroll. Perfect. That's it, guys. We are all set with our functions. Now let's start working with our front end. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to actually style and create is going to be the timer. As you have seen in my thumbnail, in the video's thumbnail, we are going to be having two mobile being displayed. In one we are having, in which we are choosing the number, the minutes that we need to start the watch timer, and in which our watch timer has already started. So in the return we are actually going to be writing the code in which our watch timer has already started, in which will be displaying the numbers running and a start and stop button. Alright, so for creating that we are actually going to be creating a view in which we are going to just call up all of our classes, all of the styles that we have implemented already. Styles.container. In this view I will be having a status bar being displayed, to which I will be adding a bar style which is going to be light content. After that I would like to display a time and a touchable opacity button once our is running is true. So we will be coming to this part later once we define the value for is running. So let's come to our state variable right over here to define our is running. Let's first define our remaining seconds, that is going to be 5. Is running, now we're going to define it right over here. By default I will set it to false, and I will even define the selected minutes and selected seconds. Selected minutes by default is going to be 0, and selected seconds by default is going to be 5. So once if the user haven't selected any kind of a number for running the stopwatch timer application, the by default the seconds will be applied of 5 seconds. So once the user clicks on start, 5 seconds timer will be started. Alright, so now let's come over here after our status bar. We're going to be calling whether it's true or whether it's false, the state. So this dot state, if our state for is running, we're going to select our is running state. If it is true, we're going to show the actual time running. If it is false, we're going to show the buttons, right? So coming over here, if it is true, I will show a text in which I'll be providing some styling. that is going to be timer text. And after that, in this I would like to display the minutes and seconds being displayed if it is true. So for that I'm going to be using an curly braces. In this curly braces I would like to call my minutes and my seconds. So dollar curly braces, and I'm gonna call my minutes, which I haven't defined yet. And then I would like to display seconds. Same thing I'm gonna do, dollar curly braces and seconds. Perfect, we are all set with it. And if it is false, what we are actually going to do is we're going to call a render pickers. Okay, that we haven't defined it yet now, but once we are done with our main styling, main UI, that is this one, in which we're going to display our running timer and a stop and start button, then we'll start working with our backend, that means our functionalities. Alright, after that we're going to create a same thing for our start and stop button. If it is true, we'll go stop. If it is false, then we're going to go with a start button. Alright, so for that we're going to say same thing over here. We're going to select our state is running, in which if it is true, what I would like to display, for that I'm going to be using the parenthesis. I would like to create a touchable opacity button, to which I will be having an onPress function defined, in which I would like to call a stop function that we have defined above. I will be providing it some styling, which is going to be two stylings I will be providing it. So I will be using the brackets inside our curly braces to define two stylings to us one single touchable opacity button. I will select my first styling, that is styles.button, and my second styling, which is going to be button.stop. Perfect. And in this touchable opacity I would like to display a text of stop if it is true. So I'll be providing it a double styling, so I'll be using the again the brackets and my stylings. Perfect, and it is gonna display us a stop button. Now same thing we are gonna do if it is false. Coming over here, we're gonna say if it is false, what we're gonna return. I'm just going to be copying the same touchable opacity button and I'm gonna paste it right over here. When it is pressed, we are gonna call our start function. Okay, and coming over here for a styling, it's going to be styles.button, only one styling. So I'm going to remove this array and keep it as a single styling. So for that we don't need a square brackets, so we will be removing it. In the text we are going to be providing it just a text of button, so we'll remove this brackets and keep one styling provided to it and change the button text to start. Perfect, we are all set. Alright guys, so now we have successfully designed our main part in which we'll be displaying the running timer and a start and stop button. Before styling, before creating actually the main thing, the main page in which we're going to be having the option to select the picker, to select the time the user want to start the stopwatch and the finishing time. Before creating that, let's start working with our backend functionality. Okay, coming over here, first let's go with our all functionalities which is there inside our component for updating it and for starting it and stopping it. So first over here we're gonna create an interval. Alright, by default we're gonna set its value to null, and in our component did update we're gonna take two props in it. The first prop is going to be previous prop and the second one we're gonna name it as previous state. Simple. In this we're gonna run if loop, in which we're gonna say if this dot state dot remaining seconds, if it is triple equals to 0, if it is true to 0, and we're gonna check if our previous state remaining seconds is not equal to 0. What we're actually gonna be doing is going to be defined in this if loop. We are gonna call a function that is going to be the stop function. Perfect. Now let's come with our component will unmount, in which we are not gonna create actually this function in this way. We're gonna create it in a simple way. Alright, and in this we're gonna use same if and else loop. So we're gonna say, we are gonna call our interval in this, and we're gonna say clear interval, in which we're gonna pass our current interval that will be cleared. Perfect. Now let's come to the start and stop function, which is our main thing for starting the stopwatch timer application and for stopping it. So we are going to be using the set state over here. So let's set a state in which we're going to select our set state, and in which we're going to select our remaining seconds. And now we are going to be parsing it as an integer. We are going to select our state and the selected minutes by the user by 10, which will be multiplied by 60, and plus I would like to parse for our minutes. So same thing, I'm going to be using the parse integer string over here, and in which I'm going to be selecting my selected minutes. Alright, and I'll be passing 30 over here. Alright, and then I'm going to set is running, alright, to true. Perfect. After that, I will be just selecting my interval, and I'm going to set my interval. I'm going to set its state. Alright, I'm going to set its state. I'm going to select my remaining seconds and its state. Sorry, I apologize. Remaining seconds column. I'm going to select its state by remaining seconds subtracted by 1. Once that is done, I will be giving it a milliseconds of 1000. It means 1 milliseconds. Perfect, guys. And if you are not understanding what we have actually done over here, what we have actually done in our component date update, component will unmount, start and stop functionalities, don't worry guys. Once our stop function is defined, I will be explaining you the code in detail, because while just writing the code explaining you, it will be really harder for you. So we're going to keep it simple. Once we are writing the code, just copy the code. If you're working with me, just write the code, understand it by yourself. If you haven't understand, don't worry. Once you have written the code, then I will be explaining it to you in detail, so it will be really helpful for you. So right now just focus on writing the code for building stopwatch timer application. Now let's come to our stop function. In this we are gonna first clear our interval. We're gonna select our interval. Perfect. After that we're gonna select our interval and pass its value to null. And then we're gonna set the state for our remaining seconds to 5 and is running back to false. Perfect guys. So now we have written all the functionalities for our 4 main functions, that is for starting our watch timer application and for stopping our stopwatch timer application. Now I'll be explaining you what is happening over here in detail. So coming over here, we have just defined 4 main states that we'll be using for selecting our minute, seconds by default, and setting our is running and remaining settings by default. So for remaining second, I have set its default value to 5. For is running, the default value is false. For selected minutes, the by default it will be selected 0. For selected seconds, by default it is going to be selected 5. So if the user is not selecting any kind of a number for running the stopwatch timer application, it is going to show an error. So for making it good to go, we're going to select by default value of 5. Then I'm just setting the interval to null. Then inside our component date update, I'm selecting 2 props. One is previous prop and one is our previous state. We are using over here an if loop, and we are setting a state for remaining seconds if it is triple equals to 0, if this is true, and if this is true, if it is not equals to 0, our previous state, we are going to call this function that is going to be this dot stop function that we have defined right over here, as you can see. Coming to our component will unmount function, in which I'm using the if loop. I'm selecting my interval and clearing it and passing it the current interval value. Coming over here to our start and stop function. In a start function, I'm setting a state in which I'm selecting my remaining seconds, parsing the user's value that the user has selected, multiplying it by 60 and adding our minutes also that the user has selected in our parse integer and just adding it by 30 and setting my is running true. That means my watch timer application will be successfully running. That means the watch timer will be running backwards. Then I'm setting my selecting my this dot interval and setting the interval remaining seconds by subtracted by 1, and it will be running in 1 milliseconds once our main set state function is finished. Then we're going to run this in 1 milliseconds. Now let's come to our stop function. In our stop function, we are actually clearing the interval, the current interval, and we are setting it to null. Then we are selecting our state in which we are passing our remaining seconds the value of 5, and we are setting our is running back to false. Alright guys, got it? It's that simple. If you are still confused, don't worry, just comment down below, or you can connect with me on my Instagram account. I will be replying you and helping you to solve the issue that you're facing in our React Native projects from zero to hero. Alright. So now let's scroll back to the top and let's just work on other more for functionalities. So first we are having a variable over here of format number. What it's actually going to do is going to be formatting the number. Once we are in our get remaining function, you will understand it in detail. So over here we're going to select our number, in which we're going to pass the by default it is going to display 0, and at the front after 0 what we actually wanted to display is number, and then I'm gonna slice it by -2. Perfect guys, that's it for this variable. Now let's come to the get remaining variable, in which we are gonna take a prop that is going to be time. I'm going to be removing the parentheses to keep it simple, and I'm going to create two variables. One is going to be for minutes and one is going to be for seconds. And after that I would like to have a return over here. Perfect. So in our minutes variable, what we're actually going to be doing is we're going to be using the math.floor method over here, in which we're going to be selecting our time that will be divided by 60, and you will be confused from where we are getting this time. Of course guys, we are getting this time from our prop that we have defined in our get remaining function. In our seconds, we are going to be selecting our time prop, which will be subtracted from our minutes and multiplied by seconds to actually run our stopwatch timer application backward. In our return, we are going to be selecting our minutes and we're going to format the number. We're going to call our format number function, or a variable that we have actually created over here, as you can see. And now we're going to be calling it, in which we're going to select our minutes, and then same thing we're going to do with our seconds. We're going to call our format number and we're going to select our seconds. So now I'll be explaining it to you together. So I created a variable of format number, in which I'm selecting the number and then I'm displaying it over here and slicing it by -2. Same thing, I created a two variable over here. One is for minute and one is for second, in which I'm just dividing the minute by 60 and seconds multiplied by 60. Then I'm returning for minutes. I'm formatting the minutes over here the user has selected. By inside this format number, it will be formatted and sliced by -2. Same thing I'm repeating with seconds. Alright, so now let's come to our create array. I'm going to be passing it a prop that is going to be length. And the first thing, I'm going to create a variable named as array, which is going to take an empty square brackets for creating an empty array. Then I'm going to use the let I that equals to a value of 0 by default. Then over here I will be using the while loop if my I value is less than length. What we're actually going to do over here is that we're going to select our array, and inside my array I'll be pushing, that means inside my array I will be putting something, and that is going to be my I value dot by converting it to string. Perfect. And then I will be selecting my I value and I will be adding it and equals to 1. Perfect. And after that I would like to return my array. And now inside my available minutes and available seconds, what we are going to do is we're going to call our create array function that we have defined above, in which we're going to pass a value of 10. Same thing we're going to do it for over here. For our available seconds, we're going to call our create array and we're going to pass it a value of 60. Perfect. Alright guys, so we are all set with our backend functionalities. That is perfect. You can see that the render pickers function, they're saying that it is not working fine. So let's see why it isn't working fine, because actually guys, we haven't created a component for rendering the pickers. So coming over here, let's come before our return and let's create a render pickers over here. Actually, let's come before our render and let's try it. Alright, so we have created render pickers. Let's save it, and now as you can see guys, there is no error in our stopwatch timer application. Perfect. And as you can see now, a start and stop button is being displayed, but as you can see, once I click on the button, it is saying me that the minutes does not exist. So for that, we are just working with our render pickers component. Let me just view my terminal back once again to remove the error from side. So let me just open my terminal and just refresh my application. Perfect. Now in our render, we are actually going to be writing the code to get a picker values. For selecting the time, we need to run our stopwatch timer application, and we'll be having a start button. Okay, so over here we're going to create a view to which we're going to be adding some stylings. Inside this view, I will call my picker, alright, that we have imported from our installed package. And to this picker, we are going to be providing it some styling. We're going to be adding some styling to it for our picker. Then for our item, we are going to provide some styling to it. After that, I will be selecting value of property of selected value, and I'll set its state to our selected minutes. Then once our value is changed for our picker, the user is changing the value for our picker, what we're actually going to do is we're going to get the item value the user has set it to, and then we're going to set state for our selected minutes and set it to the value that the user has selected. Simple guys, it's that simple. And then I will be setting a mode for this picker. There are two modes actually for this picker, that is 2 minutes guys. I'm doing something wrong over here. It is not column, it is equal to. Perfect. There are two modes actually over here. One is drop down and the another one is actually scroll one, I think so, yeah. Perfect. Now in this picker, we are going to be having an let me just remove the spaces. I think so this can cause us an error later onwards, so let me just remove it. Alright, in this we are going to be having a true and false function called. What are you thinking guys? Just comment down below whether it's going to be the one. As you can see, I just created a curly braces over here, so most of the people will be thinking yes, we're going to be writing the value for true and false. For true we're going to show this, for false we're going to show this. Just comment down below. You're having 5 seconds. Alright, so no guys, you are wrong if you have commented true. So no guys, it's wrong, it's false. We are going to select our available minutes and we're going to map through our available minutes the value that we are having. in which I'll be calling my picker item. The items that will be assigned, that means the values to our picker, the one that will be displaying numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, etc. will be defined right over here. So picker item, to which I'll be assigning it a key that is going to be value the user have selected, and the label is also going to be the value the user have selected, and then the main value is also actually going to be a value. Perfect, we are all set with our picker. Let me just save it. Once it's refreshed, as you can see, it is not being displayed. Why? We are running our render pickers, yes, so why it isn't being displayed? So let me just come over here to view and just open my terminal and refresh it. Once I refreshed it, as you can see, it is not being displayed. So now let me close my terminal and just cut this render pickers component out before our render method. Sorry, let's cut it out and just paste it inside our render. And now let's save it. And we can see that the render pickers is not being defined right over here. So actually guys, it should be defined over here only. So what is the thing that we are doing wrong over here? As you can see, when we just created our render pickers, we just created a calling it as a curly braces, but no guys, it is not a function. We are going to be returning it and we are going to be displaying it in our front end. So for that we are going to be using the parenthesis. Alright, now let's save it, and boom guys, as you can see, we are having our first picker being displayed over here with scrolling sound. That looks really amazing. You can select numbers as you like. That's perfect. So now we have created it for minutes, but at the side of this picker we actually need to display a text so the user will understand what is this picker for, whether it is for seconds or for minutes. The user will be confused. So for displaying that, we're going to be coming actually the outside of this picker. We're going to be having a text to which we're going to provide some styling that is going to be picker items item, and we would like to display this is going to be for minutes. Actually it's going to be a label. So as you can see over here, we are having our picker and a label on the right hand side for minutes. So from over here you can select the minutes, how many minutes timer you would like to start. It's total till 9. Perfect. Same thing we are going to be repeating for our seconds. So what we can do over here for saving our time, we are going to be copying this picker with the text and pasting it once our text ends. Now just what we need is we need to change the values. So over here for this we're going to change it to the selected seconds, and over here we're going to change it to selected seconds back. Perfect. And coming over here you can see that the values are assigned, and over here it's not going to be available minutes, it's going to be available seconds. That's it. And over here the label will be changed to seconds also. Perfect guys, we are all set. Let's save it and let's see. Alright guys, as you can see over here, our stopwatch timer application is successfully ready. So now let's test it out. As you can see over here, we are having our seconds also being displayed with nice speaking sound while scrolling. You can select your second, and once I just open my terminal and give it a hot refresh, as you can see over here, we are having by default value for minute seconds selected as 0 and by default value for seconds selected as 5. That we have actually defined it right over here. As you can see, the selected minute and the selected seconds. Am I right guys? Yes. Perfect. So that's working. Now let's see whether our stopwatch timer application is working fine or not. It is really a small project, it is really an interesting project, and it is really a project in which you have learned multiple things about React Native front end and back end. Alright, so let me just set 1 minute and seconds. I'm just gonna go like 5. Let's keep it. It started. As you can see, we are getting an error over here. That's common. The error is that the property for minutes doesn't exist. Alright, so let's find this out. Coming over here, we can see the property for the minutes is not defined in our line number 184 right over here. So let's find why is this error being displayed. Alright, So for fixing this, inside our return, actually not inside, before our return, inside our render, we are going to be creating a const which is going to take two values. One is going to be for minutes and one is going to be for seconds, in which I'm gonna call my get remaining function and set its state to the remaining seconds. That's it guys, we are all set. Let's give it a save. Let's refresh it. Actually over here, as you can see, we're getting, because we should not have an actual arrow, it is called equal to. We should have an equal to. Common mistakes guys, it happens sometimes, so don't worry, just debug your code, you will get the fix for it. Alright, so now let me select 1 minute and let me go with 5 seconds start, and as you can see, our stopwatch timer application is successfully started. Of course, once our timer is ended, it is going to go back to our selecting page. So once I click on stop, as you can see, it's going back to our selecting page, and for now I'm gonna select 5 seconds and click on start. Right over here, as you can see, once I select it again, our stopwatch timer application start isn't being clicked. So why is that happening? So let's check this thing out and let's see the solution. Alright guys, I got the fix. That was a silly mistake that I made in our start method. As you can see over here, for our parse integer, for our minutes, I've selected my minutes, but for seconds I just selected minutes. As you have seen, just go forward back to this part and you've seen I've just selected the selected minutes, but of course guys, for second it should be selected seconds. That was the mistake that I made, and it took 10 minutes for me to find this issue. Alright guys, so now it's all set. Let's test it back again. Let's save it, let's refresh. Alright, so now let me select 6 seconds, let me start. Alright guys, our stopwatch timer application is working fine. Now I'll go the same thing with the minutes also, so it will be really easy for you guys to understand that it is working fine and it will be good for you. Alright guys, so as you can see, it is working fine and perfectly. Alright guys, so that's it for this video. In this video, you have learned how to create a stopwatch timer application with React Native in full depth. So if you like the video, please do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and press the notification bell. The source code for the project will be provided in the description below, and if you're having any doubts related to React Native projects from zero to hero, please comment down below, but it should be related to this project. Alright guys, that's it for this video. If you like the video, do not forget to subscribe my channel. Alright guys, then I'll see you in the next React Native projects. Till then, peace.